In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a custom landing page for your virtual event using WordPress and the popular website builder Elementor. Hey, it's Craig McLean here, and this is where I help small business owners and entrepreneurs grow their business online. So if you find value in this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button below. It really makes a huge difference. So let's jump into it, guys.
Okay guys, I know 2020 is behind us, but I think it's pretty clear that we're not getting back to live events as we knew it for quite some time. It's unfortunate, but this is a time where we need to adapt and improvise our methods for lead generation. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to build a WordPress landing page for your next virtual event. Whether you're using Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, or really any virtual meetup application. Alright guys, so this is what we're going to be building. We've got our landing page here, we've got our headline, we've got just a description of our event, we've got a nice countdown to our event, we've got a nice photo of me on the right hand side, we've got our date and time, and we've got a call to action here, save my spot. If they click on that, you're going to see a pop-up here where we're simply going to request their first name and email. We're going to keep it real simple to get them enrolled for our virtual event. We'll scroll down a little bit further. These are just a few key points on what they can expect to learn during our event. And as I scroll down below, we're just going to display some testimonials or some social proof of past attendees. And then again, we have a call to action at the bottom, prompting them to go ahead and register for the event. So we're going to break this down into the following different sections. Step number 1, we are going to configure WordPress, install our plugins, and get our theme installed. Then we're going to move on. We're going to build our landing page. After that, we're going to build our registration confirmation page. Then we're going to configure our pop-up. And then finally, we're going to wrap up everything and talk about what you need to do from there.
So we're going to log into WordPress in a minute, but first I'm going to actually open up a Google Doc that I have here. And this is what I use, generally when I'm creating a landing page or a website. I like to put my copy together, at the same time as I wireframe it. So I've actually got all my copy laid out here, so it's going to be easy for us to kind of navigate back here, copy and paste what we need into our landing page. So I'll head back over to WordPress, and I'm going to head over to Workshop, which is where we are going to build our page. And you can see that there's nothing here right now. So I'm just going to log right into my dashboard. And I'm already logged in, so I didn't need to enter my username and password. I'm not going to go over the process for installing WordPress, and that's only because there's 1,000 videos on YouTube, and it's not really the basis of this video. We're going to take it one step further. We're going to actually build our pages. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is head over to Updates on our fresh installation. If there's any updates to any existing plugins or themes that we have here, I'll go ahead and update it, and I'll also update the WordPress core as well. So I've got an update to one of my plugins here, and again, you may or may not have any pre-installed plugins by your web hosting provider. So mine happens to be SiteGround, so I do have a couple of plugins installed, which I'm just going to leave there, just so I can ensure that everything stays in sync with my host. Now I'll return back to the updates page, and then I'm also going to update WordPress because it looks like we can update to 5.6.1. And there we go. So we are updated. The next thing we're going to do is I am going to head over to SG Optimizer, and you may not need to do this, but again, if you do have a plugin or any sort of caching plugin, you just want to make sure it's disabled, and mine is disabled. Just because, as we're building out a site, there's going to be tons of changes happening, so we don't want any cache being saved currently. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, we will head over to Settings, and we're just going to go through our general settings and everything that we see through here that needs to be adjusted prior to building our page. So site title, you can obviously title this the name of your event. I'm just going to title this My Virtual Workshop. I don't need any tagline, so I can get rid of that. Our address and our site address is okay, and everything else here should be okay. And actually, you know what? There is one important one here, and it's time zone. I want you to ensure that you choose the time zone that's applicable for time base for your event. And it's very important because it's going to be this is the time that's going to be based off the countdown calendar that we're going to build on the site. So I happen to be in Vancouver, so I am going to select Vancouver, and we are using Pacific time for our countdown, so I will choose that. Our date format, it doesn't really matter here, or neither does our time format, and neither does the date that the week starts on. So I'm just going to choose Save Changes. Writing, nothing in writing needs to be updated for this. Reading, we could go ahead and discourage search engines as we're building it out, but I'm not really driving traffic here, and I'm not really worried about any robots or the site being crawled currently, so I can leave that as is. Discussion, you know what, a site like this is going to be a landing page, so I would probably even add a plugin to disable all comments, since it's not going to be a blog and I don't want any comments coming through. Media, uploading files, I'm going to uncheck this organize by uploads into month and year based folders. I don't really like this unless I'm going to have a big site that's constantly updated with images. I prefer it all to be in one folder. So I'll uncheck that and I'll click Save Changes. Next we'll head over to permalinks, and I want to ensure that post name is selected, and then I will choose Save Changes. We'll head over to privacy, and our default privacy settings here are going to be just fine. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to head over to plugins, and I'm going to choose Install Plugins. Now, as I mentioned, I've got a couple of pre-installed plugins just with my web host, so I'm going to leave those in place. I am going to choose Add New, and we're going to install a few plugins that we're going to need for this landing page and this website. So first one is going to be Elementor, which is going to be our WordPress website builder of choice, and I'm going to choose Install Now. And you also see this one pop up here, Essential Add-ons for Elementor. We're going to also install that. Next one is going to be, we're going to search pop-up, and this is the first one here, Pop-up Maker. We are going to install that. And the last one we're going to install, I'm going to search Child Theme, and this one here, Child Theme Configurator. I'm going to choose Installed Now. So that's installed. I'm now going to head over to Installed Plugins, and I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to choose Activate and Apply. And we're going to see a bunch of prompts that are going to come up here, or you know what, we got lucky, not too many here. Generally there's going to be a bunch of prompts for you to go ahead and configure some of these plugins, and you'll just need to go through some of those settings. The next thing we're going to do here is I'm actually going to select all of this and just ensure that I choose Enable Auto Updates, and I'm going to choose Apply. And it's something some people may caution you against that in the event that a plugin updates and then it affects your site and how it displays. Generally, I'd like to have that updated only because I know that I can come back and correct the site if there's any issues, or I can revert to an older version, or I can diagnose it somehow. Generally get to stay up to date with all of your plugins and updates that you're going to have throughout your site. So we've got that done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to our themes, and we're going to choose Appearance, Themes. And you'll see that this is the current theme here, 2021. We're going to choose a nicer one. We're going to choose Add New, and we're going to search for Astra. And I'm going to choose Install and Activate. Okay, so now if I can always navigate to my website by coming up here and choosing Visit Site, but I always like to open that in a new tab because I like to have my WordPress admin in one tab, and in the next tab I like to have the live site because we're going to be jumping back and forth. So you'll see it looks different from when we started. I'm going to head back to WordPress admin, and I'm going to choose Tools and Child Themes. And we installed that child theme plugin, and the reason I did, where I talked about plugins and getting updated, another thing that could get auto updated is a theme. And if you happen to be going ahead and doing any customizations to your theme or doing any custom styling within the theme itself, and it's a theme that's based off of you know, an external theme provider such as Astra, they could go ahead and automatically update that theme, and it could be overridden and take out your styles. You definitely don't want that. So that's why I like to always use a child theme. So it's real simple. We are going to select create a new child theme, and we're going to choose our parent theme, which is Astra, which is already selected, and I'm going to choose Analyze. Theme appears to be okay as a child theme. And now we can go ahead and we can name this whatever we want. We can leave it Astra Child. I mean, I could go ahead and call it Workshop. And all the default settings here are okay. I'll scroll to the bottom and I'm going to choose Create New Child Theme. Now it's going to advise us that we should preview this child theme before we activate it. So I'll go ahead and click on Preview Your Child Theme. And you'll see it looks like this. It's pretty bare, and that's exactly what we want. Before we move on, we're going to do two things here. And one is we're going to head over to Additional CSS. And this is the only part in this video where we're really going to get technical at any point. We're going to look at any code. And that's essentially, I want to hide this top section here. And you know what, we might even be able to do it by clicking Edit, Design. Yeah, generally not with this Astra theme. So I'll go back and Additional CSS, and I'm just going to paste in a snippet here, and that CSS snippet is going to hide that header. And I'll paste the snippet in the description below the video. The next thing we're going to do is we will click on our copyright section here, and I'll click this Edit button right there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust the copyright to take out the Powered by the Theme author here. And then I'm going to choose Activate and Publish. And then I will close out of here. And we are also done inside of our child theme plugin. So I'll head back to the dashboard. Let's just have a quick look here, ensure that that header is gone. And our virtual workshop, you know what, we've got a little pipe symbol there we can always get rid of. So why don't we just do that quickly. Back to Appearance, Customize. We'll head back over to our footer, or we'll click on down here. And we'll get this pipe symbol out of there. We'll click Publish. We'll come back here and refresh. Perfect. So now we'll head back over to our dashboard, and now we're ready to begin building our landing page. So we'll navigate over to Pages. We'll choose All Pages, and we will choose Add New. And what I can do here is I can name my page. So I will name it Workshop. And I can provide a permalink. So this would be craigmclean.me/workshop, and then this would be the page name. So it would be /workshop again. But don't worry, we are not going to have it display like that. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to choose Save Draft. I'm not going to publish it. I'm just going to go Save Draft. Okay. Now I'm going to choose Edit with Elementor. And here we are in the editor for our page. Okay, so with Elementor, we've got our entire control panel on the left-hand side. We've got lots of different widgets we can drag out, headings, sections, images. And on the right-hand side here is our preview. And this is where we'll start by, it'll say drag a widget, or we can click plus here to add a new section. So in order to put a widget on the page, we need to first put it into a section. So we will click plus, and now we've got different formatted structures here that we can use. So we are going to choose the 2-column layout, and there it is. And then we will start by defining, we're going to use a boxed width, and then we are going to define a width of 1140 pixels. And I just like that width just because it fits nicely between on pretty standard size monitors or screens on desktops. So that's the reason that I like that. And then I'm going to click on this little grid here, and now we are going to drag a heading widget out into our left column. Okay, and like I said, I've got this Google Doc here, so I can now go ahead and just copy and paste some of that copy that I already came up with right into here. And then we can go ahead and do our formatting afterwards. Okay, so I've got my heading, and then what I like to do is for this one, since this is kind of like the master heading on the page, I will choose an H1 tag for this. This really doesn't matter too much, but we can go ahead and select H1 for that. And now we'll go ahead and click our grid again. And this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag out a text editor. So I'll drag that text editor widget right below there, and I'll head back over here, and I'm going to grab my description or my sub headline. and I will paste it into here. Alright, so we've got that pasted in. So now we can start doing some formatting on this copy that we've added here. So I'll go back to my heading, and I will choose Style. And the first thing is I will choose a color that I want to use. And we can go ahead and use some sort of gray if we like. I know one offhand that I do like, and that's a 3E, 3E, 3E. Or we can go ahead and select any from this color picker here. Okay. And what I can do is, now that I've selected that, and now I know that I'm going to be using that color throughout the site, I can also click on this little plus icon to add it as a new global color. That way we're not always typing in or pasting in or searching for what colors we've used throughout our theme. So I'll click on that, and I will just choose gray text. Or I can just use gray because we could apply that to anything. Okay? And now I will choose typography, and I will click edit. And for this, let's go ahead and let's use Google font domain. And now let's size it. We'll now choose our size. You've got different options here for pixels. We can use M, and I use M because that's just more of a common font sizing method essentially to use across the web now, versus pixels, because pixels you're a little bit more fixed on a pixel size, whereas M is scalable depending on the size of the device or browser that you're using. So let's start out with 1. See, that's too small. Let's go 2. Why don't we bump it up? 2.3. We can even make it 2.4. All right. So I think that looks okay. We could even bump it down a size. Now let's keep it at 2.4. All right. So now let's go ahead and adjust our styling for our description here. We'll choose style, and we will choose for our text color. We'll use the same color. So I'll click on this little global icon now, and you'll see gray because we added that gray element or gray color. And typography, I will click edit. And for the font family, I'm just going to use a sans serif, essentially what's used there right now. And I happen to like Roboto, so I'll choose that. And again, I like to use the M sizing method. Let's choose 1. Let's bump it up to 1.1, to maybe even 3. Alright, let's make this a little bit smaller. Let's go 1.2, that way it drops down to 4 lines there. So we now need to add a date and time to our section up here. So we'll go ahead and we'll right click on this, and we will choose duplicate. And it's duplicated it here. So let's go ahead and head back to our Google Doc. We're going to add in the date and the time. So I'll copy that, and I will paste it into here. And I'll bring it to the cursor to the next line. And we'll grab the time. And I generally like this format where I can provide a few different time zones depending on where my visitors are coming from. And now I can go ahead and choose style. And text color, it's already bringing in the text color that we already had defined because we duplicated it. So let's center this, and let's choose typography. Let's go edit. We're going to bump up the sizing a little bit. Let's change the weight. Why don't we make that bold? That didn't seem to want to work. We can also bold it from here, from within our editor. So I can select this and choose bold. Now that looks good. I'll go back to style, typography, and let's adjust the line height a little bit. And let's bump it up a little bit. There we go, that looks a little bit better. I think there's a little bit too much space between the description and the date here. So now let's go over to advanced, and let's add a margin. And the first thing, I don't want to worry about any right or bottom or left margin right now. I just want to adjust the top. So I'll first choose this to unlink them, and let's change the top. We're going to drop it down because we're going to add a negative margin. And why don't we bring it up to about there. Alright, so -30. That looks good. Let's go ahead and publish this anyway, and let's go back here and refresh and see what our page looks like. It's not going to look any different right now, and it's because we did not define this to be our home page. So we can go ahead and actually do that real quick. We can go ahead and we can exit the dashboard. And we can click the WordPress icon. I don't like that it doesn't bring you back to the dashboard with this version, but that's okay. We'll now go down to settings and reading. And your home page displays. Right now it's set to your latest posts by default. So we're going to choose this, and we're going to define our home page to be workshop. And we're going to choose save changes. Now when I come back here and I refresh, you're going to see that it displays. Okay, so it's coming along. We'll head back over to pages, all pages, workshop, and I will choose edit with Elementor. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to drag out a button widget. So from the left here, we'll scroll down. Let's see, where's button? Right here. And we're going to drag it right here. And we will go ahead and use the default type button. And we're going to use the text save my spot. The link, we can leave it just as a pound symbol. That's going to be okay because we're going to activate that later on. We're going to center this button. We'll make it large. I don't want to worry about any icons. We're not going to add any of that. Let's go ahead and style it now. And first let's change the background color. So I can choose background color. And I already found one that I did like, so I'm just going to add in the hex code for that. Alright, so I like that one, and now I can go ahead and save it as a new global color again. And I can choose this button color, or you can leave it as button, and create. And now let's go ahead, and we don't need any border on this button, but why don't we go ahead and add a radius to this button. And let's round it. Let's keep it going. Let's see. Because we're going to add some padding to it too. So that looks good. Now let's add some padding. We're just going to click the plus button and go up. So I like the padding on the top and bottom, but let's add some more padding on the left and the right to make it wider. So I can click this to unlink these values. And now let's bump up on the right hand side. Let's find a value that we like. And we're also going to make the text bigger, so it's going to adjust this a bit. Let's go 75 again. I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and adjust the text. So typography, we'll go edit. And now we will choose family. Again, we're going to choose Roboto again, because that's what we're using for all our sans serif throughout the site. We'll choose M, and let's bump it up. Let's make it 1 and then go up from there. I think that looks pretty good. Maybe one more even. And the weight, we can change the weight. Let's try 400, 500. I think that looks good. Slightly bolded. Let's go back to, we'll click out of here. And now let's hover over our button. And you see there's no hover animation or action going on here. So why don't we go ahead and do that? We'll click on hover now. And now I just like to adjust the background color slightly. So why don't we go ahead and we can choose a global color again, the same one, but then we can go ahead and edit that. So let's click here. Why don't we make it slightly lighter? So now if I hover over it, you'll see that it adjusts it. And it just adds a nice design aspect to the site. So now we can go ahead and we can click custom again. Or let's click the color, sorry, and go plus. And this time we will change this to button and go dash hover. Create. So now we've got that hover element saved. Okay. So I think that looks pretty good. Again, a little bit too much spacing above here. So let's go back to advanced. And this time margin. Again, we're going to unlink our values. And why don't we change the margin up above? Let's drop it down a little bit. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so we'll click back on our grid. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add our image to the right hand side here. And I'm going to drag that out here. You'll see our image is there. Now in the left panel, I'm going to click on here and I'm going to choose media library. You'll see there's nothing in our media library. So we need to go ahead and we need to upload our image that we want to use there. So I'm going to go select files and I'm going to use my image that I already have created. And I'm going to choose insert media, and there you go. You see my smiling face. It's way too big right there. And for image size here, I usually just go full because we're going to adjust that on the styling page next. And we can leave it, and we can center that here. That's going to be okay. Now we'll go style and width, and this is where I just start dragging this until I find a spot that I like. As far as size goes. So we've got the photo in there, it looks okay. I just realized that on the left hand side here we need to actually go ahead and we need to add in our countdown widget. And so I'm going to click back on the grid here and I'm going to search my widgets and I'm going to search for countdown. And we're going to choose this one right here. And you'll notice that there's a couple different, there's another countdown and a couple different counters. And you'll notice that there's a lock icon here, and that's for Elementor Pro. You have to pay for that version, and that's, it's a great service, and I use that as well. But the Elementor add-ons that we added will allow us to use a countdown feature for free. So we'll go ahead and we'll drag this out here. We'll bring it right above the button there, and now we can go ahead and we can configure this. So our event is, we can click on here and we can choose our date, February 25th. It's going to be 2 p.m. and that's going to be Pacific, and that's going to be based on the WordPress settings that we chose for the time zone. And you know what, let's drag this actually up above the description and date here. There we go. And we can go ahead and we can go back to margin here and change this up a little bit. Let's drop that back down to 0 for now. Let's go back and style our countdown. Label position, we're going to leave this as block. If I change it to inline, it's going to change up. Can't see the label right now, but if I highlight it, I won't be able to highlight it. Or maybe I can select all. No, it's because the text is white, so that's okay. We'll go back to block. And content settings, let's go ahead and we're going to leave it as days, hours, minutes, seconds. That's okay. Expire action, we don't want it to do anything when it expires. Let's go to style, and now let's style it so we can make this look exactly how it needs for our site. Let's scroll down to color and typography. And so for our digits, let's go ahead and choose a global color, and let's use our gray. And then typography, let's go ahead and click edit. And we're going to go ahead and use Roboto again. And I think the sizing looks okay to me as is right now. Now let's go back to our label. Let's define our label color. And this one, let's go ahead and use the button color that we used. Let's see how that looks. I think it looks okay. Typography. For this one, let's go back and we'll use the serif font we used at the beginning, which was Domain. And we can make it slightly smaller, so we'll choose M. We'll go 1. It's a little bit too big. 1.1. And I think that looks good right there. So now let's go ahead and we'll go back up top. Let's click Advanced, and let's cut out the space here, similar like how we did with between the date and time here and the description. Let's do the same here for the countdown. So first we'll unlink these values, and margin dash top, I'm going to use a negative margin to bring this up. And I think that looks better. Okay, let's click Update. Let's go back here and we can go refresh. And you'll notice that my image here is hovering up there, which I don't like at all. Okay, so we'll go ahead and fix that. let's go back, let's click the image. The first thing we're going to do is we'll go advanced and we'll take off any padding that may happen to be surrounded around the image. Okay, we'll make it 0 because we don't want any space, because Elementor is going to add on some space by default on some of these columns and widgets. So we'll take that off. Now we will go ahead and we'll click on this column itself. And first thing I'm going to do is vertical align. I'm going to select bottom, bring my image to the bottom. Whoops. And then I will go advanced, and again I'm going to choose for padding, I'm going to go 0, and you'll see how it took off any space at the bottom. So now I can choose update again. So I think that looks better. Now at any point, instead of going back here and clicking refresh, I can always just choose the little eye icon here to preview our changes. So I can click on that, and there we go. Okay, so it's starting to look better. Why don't we go ahead and we can add in a border actually to the top of this widget here, because it's a little bit plain up there. So let's select this entire section, and let's go style, and let's go down to border, and border type we're going to choose solid, and we are going to unlink the values because I don't want a border all around. And let's go up, change this value up, and let's bump it up to maybe 10. And for our border color, let's use one of our global colors. Let's use the button color we used, and let's see how that looks. I think that looks pretty good. We can go ahead and we can add some spacing above this headline here. So why don't we do that now? I'll choose my heading here, and we'll go advanced. Let's add a margin above that. So again, I can unlink my values up at the top. Let's go ahead and add in a margin here. Maybe 20 pixels. And let's see how this looks. And that looks a little bit better. So let's move on to our next section. The top is looking pretty good right now. We'll go ahead and we can actually, like we duplicated widgets, we can go ahead and duplicate sections as well. So we could go ahead and we can right click and duplicate, except this section is actually a 2 column. The next one's going to be a 1 column. So let's just start fresh, and we'll go click the plus button, and we are going to choose a 1 column layout. The content width, again, I'm going to choose 1140. And I'll click back on my grid, and I'm going to drag a heading element out into here. And let's go ahead and grab our headline that we have in our doc. During this free training, you will learn, and let's paste that in. Let's go ahead and center that. Style, let's choose a color from our global colors. We're going to choose our gray. Typography, we'll choose our serif font that we like. Our sizing, we'll use M again. And I think that looks pretty good. Our weight, we can bump it up a little bit. There we go. And I know it's a little bit close to the section above, but that's okay. We're going to adjust that afterwards. We'll now go ahead and we are going to go back to our grid, and we're going to use a new section. It's called an intersection. So instead of using it within here, I want to use an intersection because we're going to go with a 3 column layout. So I'm going to grab this intersection, and I'm going to drag it below my headline. And you'll see by default it's going to be 2 columns. And I'm not going to be able to adjust it from within here, such as structure. I'm going to have to click on one of these columns, and I'm going to choose add new column. And it's going to automatically space or create the width even. And now let's go back to our grid, and we'll grab our heading, we'll bring it into here. And because this is a little bit lower on the page, it doesn't need a higher value such as H2, H1. We're going to drop this down to H4. Okay, automatically it's going to drop down the size as well. We will go ahead and we'll center this. We'll choose style. We'll leave the color as is, or actually no, we need to define it using our global color to our gray. And let's go ahead and grab our text, and we're going to paste that in. We'll go back to style, edit, our font, bump up the size, or adjust it, I should say. It looks okay. Weight, bump it up a little bit. 500, slightly bolded. I think that's okay. So now, let's go back to our grid, and this time we're going to choose icon. And I'm going to drag that out here above it. And the first icon I want to use I'm going to search for one that I saw, which was called Stream. I'm going to click on that and choose Insert. And it is centered already. And then I will choose Style. And size, let's adjust the sizing. That looks okay right there. And the primary color, we'll go ahead and choose our button color there. And now let's choose Preview Changes. And let's see how that looks. So it's coming along. Let's go back. And now we can go ahead and we can actually duplicate this across to our other columns. So let's duplicate this, bring it across, and do the same thing again. That way we've got all of the styling saved. Right click, duplicate, and then we're going to drag this over again. And so let's go back to our doc. So widget number 2, we'll grab this text. And for this icon, I'm going to click on here. I'm going to search for map. Let's go ahead and use this one. Choose Insert. And then let's move on to the last one here on the right. Widget number 3. Let's copy that. Paste. And for this one, let's go ahead and change that icon. And we're going to search for chart. And let's use this one right here. Insert. Let's preview our changes. That's looking pretty good. We do need to add some spacing here and a little bit of distinction between this and my top section here, which is, you generally refer to it as a hero section on a website. So let's go ahead and let's go back, and first let's add some padding to this entire widget. So I'll choose the widget, and then I will go Advanced, and padding, I will bump it up. Let's try 20. Let's bump it up a little bit. And you know what? We don't need so much padding on the left and right, perhaps. So let's choose right would be 0, and left would be 0. And we can even bump this up a little bit, possibly. There we go. And now let's go ahead and actually adjust. We could even adjust the color, but we're going to actually add a different type of element to the top here. So I'm going to go back to my hero section here and choose the section. And I will make sure I'm on the Style tab. And I'm going to choose Shape Divider. And under Shape Divider, I'm going to choose Bottom, and then Type. We can go ahead and we can navigate through here and see what kind of comes of this here. And we're not seeing anything because we need to define a color first. So let's say we select any color essentially. And the width. And you'll see that it is fairly small there, but something is appearing. So let's go ahead and we're going to change this one to triangle asymmetrical. And let's go ahead and change the color. We're going to make it a light gray. That looks pretty good. And it looks odd how it's going in that section, so we can even invert it. And that looks a little bit better. And we can even adjust the width here. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and choose Preview Changes. And now we've got a little bit more distinction between the top and bottom. I think we do need a little bit of spacing between this button and the bottom of this widget here. So let's go back, and we could add, we can select the button, And we can even add some margin below it to the bottom of it. And we'll bump it up to 20, preview our changes, and that looks better. So a little bit more distinction there. Let's head back over here. We'll now move on to our attendees section. So I can go ahead and right click on here and I can go duplicate and drag it down. And we've got a clone of it. And we can go ahead and use the same headline format here. So let's go ahead back to our doc here. And so our testimonial section, let's grab our headline. And we're going to paste it in here. And we can get rid of this intersection because we're not going to be using that. And why don't we change the background color of this widget as well. We'll choose style. And we will choose background type. And we'll click classic. And then color. We'll go to check our global colors. It's a little bit dark. Why don't we change that up? Why don't we possibly use that hover color? Or we can even lighten that up a little bit. And that looks a little bit better. So we removed the intersection, but we're actually going to add a new one in there, and we're going to go with a 2-column layout. So I will drag that into here, and I will now head back over to the grid, and we're going to search for a new one, and it's going to be testimonial, and we're going to use this one right here, and we're going to drag it out into my left column. And now what I'll do is, instead of dragging more testimonial widgets, we'll go ahead and we'll style one, and then we'll duplicate it and move on from there. So our testimonial will go back to our doc here, and we'll grab our first testimonial, and we're going to paste that into the content. Okay, and then we will move down to the testimonial name, or the author, and their title. So we'll go ahead and we'll use Jerry Seinfeld. I'm clearly a big Seinfeld fan. And title, we're going to use comedian. And we can even give him a photo, so we'll choose image. There's nothing in our media library, so we'll click upload, and we'll select. And instead of just uploading his photo, we'll go ahead and we'll upload all of our testimonial authors here. And so I'll select them all, I'll go open, and they're all going to upload. And so now we will select him, and we'll go insert media. There we go. So now let's go ahead and add some styling to this font here, or to this testimonial. So we'll choose style. And for the content, let's go ahead and choose our color. We'll use our gray. And now typography. We can go ahead and still use the Roboto. And that sizing looks okay to me as well. The weight looks fine. Let's go ahead and click back here. And before we style the name and their title, let's actually just go back here. I want to change the color of this background. I feel like it should be a little bit lighter. Let's change it up a bit. I feel like that's a little bit better. Perfect. Let's go back to our testimonial. Let's actually reduce the line height here on the content as well. So line height. Drop it down to 1.5. And now let's adjust our name styling. So text color, choose a global color. We'll go to the button color. We can actually even make it a little bit darker. There we go. Perfect. And we can even bump up the sizing as well. And same with the title. Bump up that sizing as well. A little bit too big. go. And you know what? Why don't we make the name slightly bigger? Oops. Back to name. And we'll make this bigger. And just we'll ensure that we're using the same font as well. And I think that's looking pretty good. So why don't we go ahead now and we can duplicate this entire testimonial widget. So we're going to bring one over to the right here, and then we're also going to bring it below. Perfect. And now we'll head back over to our doc and testimonial number 2. I'll just go ahead and copy this. I'll bring that over to the right hand side. So obviously position or company. If you're a fan of Seinfeld, you're aware of Pendant Publishing. And we'll select our photo. And then we will go down here, testimonial number 3. Select George. And then our last testimonial. All right, and we'll get his photo in here. Perfect. So we'll now go ahead and preview this and see how we're looking. Looking pretty good here. Now before we do our responsive test to see how this looks on mobile and tablet devices and make any necessary changes, I want to go ahead and just adjust this footer color here where the copyright section falls. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's head back over to our WordPress dashboard. And let's head over to Appearance and Customize. We'll choose Footer Builder. And then let's hover over here, and on the left hand side here we'll choose the Edit, and then we will choose Design, and here we can adjust our color. So that's the background color, so we can go ahead and darken this up here. That's good. And now we will need to adjust the text to suit. So we will click Edit here, and we can choose Design, Text Color, and we can use a white or even a gray. I think a white is fine, and I think that looks good. So we'll go ahead and publish that. Head back over to our page, refresh. We'll see how that looks, and that looks good. All right, perfect. So I can close this out, and I've already got this open in a new tab here, so that's fine. So why don't we go ahead and we'll click Edit with Elementor. And this is one of my favorite features of Elementor, is this responsive mode option that you'll see at the bottom here. I'll click on this icon and you'll see that the desktop is obviously going to be the default preview, but below that we have options for tablet as well as mobile. So we can actually target styles and layout based on the device size. So let's choose tablet, and you'll see that this adjusts it to a tablet size, and this obviously does not look good just based on how we had laid it out for the desktop and when it's automatically styled down to a tablet size. So now we can go ahead and we can target this tablet size specifically, and it's not going to have any effect on the desktop styling that we just completed. So let's go ahead and we could do lots of different things here. This text, we could go ahead and make it smaller and drop all of the sizing down so the image comes up. It's a lot of work and not really needed, especially since this text is the most important aspect of this page. So why don't we go ahead and we'll change this layout to a one column layout. So what I'll do is I will click on either one of these columns here. So I'm going to choose this one. And the column width here, I'm going to type in 100 for 100%. And now that is going to bring this right across. If your text was still left aligned, you could go ahead and center it. So there it is, centered. I could adjust this text styling however I wanted. You'll notice that my countdown timer is a little bit off with the styling, so we need to adjust that. So let's click on that. And let's choose content. And the first thing we're going to need to do is the label position. We want to choose block. And that's going to drop down our label below that. So that's already looking much better. If I go style, and I color and typography, my labels, I could make the styling a little bit, or the font size a little bit smaller if I like. I could make any adjustments here that I needed. Overall, I think that's looking pretty good. We can look at the space between the boxes if we wanted to increase that or lower that. I think right there is a little bit better. We can bring this sizing up here. So we'll choose style. We'll go back to our sizing. That's looking better. Advanced. We don't need to worry about the margin there or anything like that. My photo here, again, we have the option where we could take this. We could take this entire column here, and we could go advanced, and we could choose responsive, and we could choose to hide this column on a tablet. You'll see how it grays out. So when I load this up, it's going to hide it, but we're going to keep it there still. We're going to choose column, and we're going to go layout. First of all, we're going to make this 100% wide as well. Photo is way too big, so we can choose the photo now, and we'll choose style, and the width, we can now drag it down, and we can just make a smaller photo that is center aligned there. Okay, so that looks good. We'll scroll down further. We'll have a look. Our widgets here are looking good, and same with down here as well. So we can go ahead and we can choose update. That's looking good. Next thing we'll do is we will choose responsive mode, and we will choose mobile. And again, we can adjust any styling here. I can even drop down the size of this headline. So I'll choose style, and let's drop down this size a little bit. I think that's good right there. This text is okay. We do need to adjust some styling here just on the sizes of our countdown. So colors and typography. And so the digits sizing needs to drop. That looks okay. And now let's do the same for the labels. A little bit small, but that's okay. And space between the boxes, we can see if we can adjust that at all. That's okay right there. This size we can drop down as well. And our image we could even make a little bit bigger here. Let's drop down this headline size. And to be consistent, let's do the same here. There we go. And these are looking good here as well. So now we can choose update. And then again, we could always just check this on an actual tablet or a mobile phone just to ensure that it is looking good on all the different devices. But overall, this is going to give us a nice preview so that we can make the necessary adjustments within here. So let's go back to our page. And overall, I'm happy with it now. So why don't we go ahead and we will go back to our dashboard. and we are going to choose pages, all pages. And what we're going to do now is we are going to build out our registration success page. So we're going to hover over workshop, and we're going to actually use EA duplicator. And you'll see that it cloned my page here, which is now a draft, so I can click edit. And I'm going to change the title of this to registration success. And you'll see that my URL slug here is already updated. So I'll choose save draft. And I'll go back to the WordPress editor. That's okay. And I'll choose edit with Elementor. And you'll see that our page is exactly the same, of course, because that is what we just cloned. So let me just go preview changes to ensure this loads up our registration success page. If we go publish and do that again, then we're going to see the /registration success URL here. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to make some adjustments to this, to our copy. And let's scroll down to our registration. You can call it a registration success or registration confirmation page, really on how you're planning on wording the copy there. So for our headline, we're going to go thanks for registering. Go back here. For our body here, I'm going to copy this in, or paste this in, I should say. Oh, way too big. So we'll go ahead and paste it without styling. There we go. And now we can style this up here. So it says, I've gone ahead and sent you an email confirming your registration. If the email doesn't arrive in your inbox in a few minutes, please be sure to check your junk folder. And here's the workshop URL. And again, this is going to be the URL that you're using for your meeting. So oftentimes it's going to be Zoom. I like to put it on the confirmation page as well, just in case they want to go ahead and bookmark this page. It's totally okay. If they happen to be using a password for their meeting, whether it be Zoom or any other service, we can go ahead and leave that in. What I'm going to do in a separate video is I'm going to cover the different email marketing systems that you can use to tie this in, so we can actually create a functioning form for it. But for this video, all we're doing is actually building out a nice landing page to suit any meeting service that you plan to use. So let's go ahead and just finish styling this. There we go. And the workshop URL here. What we'll do is we'll put in a demo URL that we could use that would look something similar to a Zoom account here, and same with a password. And our password here would happen to be workshop. And let's bold that. And we're going to want to hyperlink our workshop URL. So I'll copy that, and I will choose insert or edit link, and it's automatically going to populate it, and then I will just choose the supply button, and that is good. Oh, it actually opened that up in a tab. I'll close that out. And again, this isn't an active link, but this is the same sort of format that you'll have for your link here. Okay, so what we can do is we can get rid of this countdown here. We don't need that any longer. We can get rid of this, and we can also get rid of the button. We don't need this. It's going to be a real simple confirmation page. We can now get rid of this, as well as our testimonials here. And again, if you want, you can leave any of those sections in. If you want to replace the content, if you want to throw in some more testimonials just to really solidify the fact that they've registered for your event and that they should be attending. So I can choose update. And let's go ahead and preview our changes. And this is looking good here. So thanks for registering. I've gone ahead and sent you this email, and that is looking good. So that is our registration confirmation page. we can now go ahead again and check out our responsive mode. So tablet, that looks good. And same with the mobile device, that looks good as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and we will head back over to our dashboard. Choose dashboard. Okay, we're now ready to configure our pop-up for them to take action to actually register and enroll for your event. So if I go back to the page here and I will head back over to the actual landing page, if I click save my spot, you're going to see it's going to do nothing. It's going to jump us back up to the top of the page here. So let's go ahead and make these buttons function. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to hover over pop-up maker and we're going to choose pop-up themes. Okay, and we got a number of different pop-up themes here. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take this enterprise blue and I'm going to duplicate that. So we're first going to create a theme that we're going to use for our pop-up. So you'll see it's created a clone here which is called draft. So I will click edit and let's name this virtual workshop. Okay, and on the right hand side here you can see this is what the pop-up is going to look like. So we can now go ahead and adjust our styling here through these settings based on this view. Okay, so I think that looks okay so far. We'll now choose container and we'll just go through these settings here to ensure we're happy with it. So border radius, I'm going to bump this down to 0. I prefer no border or no radius on that border. Background is okay as is. The border, there is none. And drop shadow, I'm okay with how it's looking right now. With my title, I'm going to go ahead and adjust that title and I'll just make it black, or we can make it a dark gray. And then I'll choose select color again to close out that box. We can go ahead and increase our sizing if needed. Font family, we'll go ahead and we will choose domain. Font weight, we'll leave it as normal. I think that bold is a little bit too much. We're going to go ahead and we'll center this text. Content, font family for the content, we'll go ahead and use Roboto. Font weight, we'll change this one to 500. And style is okay. Close, so the close button, I like the little, the X essentially there. We do want it in the top right. I'm going to change that background, and that background, I prefer not to have any background, so we could change it to white, or we could drop this opacity right down. Since it's a white background, we'll just choose white. You'll see obviously we don't see it now, so we need to go and go font, and we need to change that color, and we can make it a dark gray or black. And we're going to bump up the size a little bit. That looks okay. And I think that looks good so far. So why don't we go ahead and we will choose publish. Okay, now we're going to head over to all pop-ups. Oh, looks like I'm going to have to log back in. So pop-ups. And we can skip the tour. We're going to choose create a new pop-up, and we are going, and we'll skip the tour again, and we're going to choose virtual workshop registration. And this is not going to be visible. This is just for our own naming convention in the back here. Pop-up title. Let's go ahead and use this headline that I have saved here in my doc file. Save my spot for your free event. We'll use that. And before we go ahead and put any text down here, let's go ahead and trigger, or add a trigger, but also go through these pop-up settings. So first thing we're going to do is add a trigger. So what causes this pop-up to open? So we could do things such as a time delay based on when the page loads, but the nature of this is we want to click open. Okay. we want to uncheck this because we don't want to do any sort of cookie check based on, if they close the pop-up. So we'll just uncheck that. And we'll choose add. And what we're going to do is here we are going to add in, we're just going to go period, and we are going to type in a register. Okay, so we're basically defining a CSS class here that we're going to add to our button element, and that's what's going to target or prompt this pop-up to open. Okay, we'll go to advanced, and we can leave this unchecked. So I will choose add, and you'll see that it is now added this selector here. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we'll go to targeting. We can leave this, we want this to be displayed on tablet mobile devices. This option is here if needed. Display. We will go ahead and keep our pop-up centered. Appearance. Pop-up theme. We want to use a virtual workshop, what we just created. Size, we will leave it as is. Animation is okay. A sound, position, middle center. And advanced, we don't need to worry about anything in here either. Our close, we will head over to form submission. We can choose close on form submission. Again, this would be like if they've registered for an event, they can now close that pop-up. Okay. Alternate methods, we don't need to worry about this. This would be if you want to give them different options for closing this pop-up. Okay. Advanced. We don't need to worry about any of this. So let's go ahead and choose publish. Let's head back over to our page. Let's refresh it. Let's click save my spot, and it's not going to do anything, okay? Because we need to add in those classes to these buttons. So let's go edit with Elementor. And I just realized I don't have another button on this page. Generally, I'd like to populate the page with more buttons, a little bit more call to action. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add another one down here below the attendees, or below our testimonials, I should say. So we're going to choose our button, and we're going to go to advanced, and we are going to, where it says CSS classes, we're just simply going to type in register. Okay, we're not going to add in a period before, just the word register. Now if I click my button, you're going to see it's going to trigger a pop-up. We'll close that. And I like that, so we're going to go ahead and now duplicate this button. And let's drag it down, and we will bring it right below our testimonials here. And you know what, let's add, or actually, we just need to adjust the margin because we had a negative margin set on the one above. So we'll click edit. And that's okay if the pop-up displays, it's going to in the preview. But we are now going to change this negative margin. We'll make it 0. And you know what, we're going to have to make a positive margin to give it a little bit more space. So let's keep it going here, and we'll go to about 30 pixels. And we'll choose update. And that looks good right there. Okay. If I click on this button here, you're going to see it's going to trigger our pop-up. So that's perfect. Let's head back over to our pop-up, and now we need to add in a little bit more texture. Okay. So we'll go back to my doc file, and this is a sub-headline that I like displayed in my pop-up. So it's going to be the date and time of my event. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste that in. I'll select it. I'll go ahead, I will center it. We can make it bold. We could make it a different heading style there, and we can choose update. And we'll head back over to our page, and we'll see how that looks so far. You're going to be jumping back and forth a little bit as you create this to get the type of styling that you'd like. So that looks good. We can even select this text again, and we can choose to toggle this toolbar, and we can choose text color, and we can choose custom, and we can actually type in a custom color here, or select one from the color picker. So why don't we actually get our button color that we're using here. So I'm going to copy that. and I'll paste it into here with a pound symbol. That's for the hex code, and go OK. And there we go. So now when I choose update and I refresh this page, save my spot, you'll see that's present. So the next thing is we're going to actually want to put a form in here. So in your email marketing account, that's a whole other component. You're going to be actually capturing your registrant and they're segmenting them, configuring your reminder emails, your automation sequence, and that's where you can actually build out your form as well. You can even style it to suit your page. You could do it from here too. It's going to be a little bit more complex, going to require a little bit more skills as far as your HTML and your CSS to style things up. What I'm going to show you just for the purpose of this video so you can see what a form would look like on here is I can go ahead and I'm just going to paste in a form code that I created. I'm going to paste it in there. And I will choose, I'll go back to visual and then I'll choose update. And I'll go back to my page and I will refresh and I'll choose save my spot. And you're going to see that now my form is populated in here, first name, email, that's what I want to capture. And they're going to click here to confirm their registration. Once they do that, that's where they're going to be taken to the registration confirmation or success page that we already configured. And again, that's something in your email marketing provider that you're going to actually define. So guys, as a bonus, the next few videos are going to cover kind of what I just went over as far as integrating this landing page with some common email marketing providers to actually capture the registrants, segment them, create the automation sequences, and not only that, but how to easily update this page for future events, because I'm assuming that you're going to be taking this page and going to be running your monthly events.
So I hope this video brought you value and that you can take and implement this into your next event. And just a heads up guys, I'm just in the process of finishing up building up my free 7-day website challenge where we're going to build a full WordPress and Elementor website from start to finish. So that means purchasing your domain name, registering for hosting, creating your branded email accounts, setting up your SSL certificate, so much more. So if you're interested, head over to free 7-day website challenge and enter your name and email to be notified as soon as we go live. Thanks and see you in the next video.